Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Coach Confessionals on the Faster Way podcast. So last week, we dropped a podcast with Dr. Sara Godfried regarding stress, regarding cortisol. She talked a lot about the concept of perceived stress.
Yes.
And that prompted a question I received from one of our community members. And I'm going to read the question, and then we are going to talk about how to manage perceived stress, which I think is awesome. So if you're new to the Faster Way podcast, we like to bring in an expert on a particular topic, and then Lee and I kind of riff a little bit. We hear the feedback from our community, from our clients and coaches, and then we kind of share our perspective on it in a more conversational, like fireside chat method.
Yeah, no script. This is real.
No
This is the
script, no
confessions.
filter. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, per usual, I just filmed 2 workouts. I look horrendous, so you're just going to have to get over it.
I'm wearing sweater shorts because it's the last day of winter in Florida.
She is wearing sweater shorts. Okay, so right after we broadcasted it and published that podcast interview with Dr. Sara Godfried, I got a text message from one of our gals in the community, and she said, okay, so how do you manage your stress? You don't see a therapist, right? And then she kind of said, I think I need to learn how to cope so I can balance my cortisol, This is a very successful, high-achieving member of our community. And the funny thing is when she asked, okay, how do you manage your stress? I go, that's a great question. And I haven't really pinpointed it. I was like, let me think on how to share the how. And the funny thing is, I was getting my nails done a week ago, and my nail gal asked me the same thing. She goes, you are never stressed, are you? She's like, I've been doing your nails for years, and I've never seen you stressed. And I was like, that's interesting that she also asked me kind of, how do you manage your stress? And so it just got me thinking, and we decided that we're going to talk through this and share our tips, our top tips for how to manage stress. But I have to tell you guys, I was a psychology major. Okay, so most people assume that I was exercise and sports science major. Well, I was exercise and sports science major for one very long day. Okay, I looked around. I'm like, I'm going to be with a particular cohort of people for 4 years. Who do I want to be with? I'm in the exercise sports. I'm like, I don't know. I just wasn't sure if I want to be with them for 4 years. So I'm like, I'm already a trainer. I'm already training.
Yeah.
I can learn the science. But what I really need to learn is the human behavior and how to motivate people. So I switched to psychology. I loved my health psychology classes. I ended up moving more into industrial organizational psychology. But I do feel like I cheat a little bit when it comes to things like managing stress, because I know maybe some extra secrets that a lot of people don't know. And I do want to also say, like, I'm a massive fan of counseling and coaching and mentorship and therapy. When Brandon and I first got married, signed us up for probably 4 or 5 different marriage counselors. The poor guy, I had him in every personality test. I had him in every session. I'm like, let's do more counseling. Let's do this. Let's do that. And now if I ever suggested, like, hey, we should do some therapy, all of a sudden that night, he is like Mr. Chatty Cathy. He's like the best communicator I've ever met.
Again? Yeah.
Because he's like, he does not want to be, he's like doing everything he can so that we're not back in, counseling. Because he's like, let me just become the best communicator overnight. Like, it's just like this.
And then I'll distract you and you'll forget. You won't have to take me.
Which is what happened. But here's the deal. I do have a way of managing stress. I have 5 kids, and we'll talk about you as well, because you have a whole other, level of stress, and kids are at a different life stage and all that. I got 5 kids. I'm running a big company, the fastest growing company in this category. Very active in the church, traveling quite a bit.
Yes.
And the thing is, guys, like, you see the highlight reels on Instagram and Facebook, but we deal with stuff here at Faster Way, okay? And I, legally, I can't share a lot of it, but I will tell you, just this year, we've had a con man come through and try to steal money. We've had people I've had to fire. Very, very difficult, circumstances, just, the type of stuff that could cause somebody to lose sleep. We've had lawsuits. We've had a lot of challenge and struggle and obstacles. So you see the highlight reel, But there's, a company of our size, you're just going to deal with problems. I want to just kind of dive into maybe my first tip, but then we're going to talk about the 3 M's, movement, meditation, mindset. So I think, in the mindset theme, I've had a perspective for the past several years that every single day, no matter what, I'm going to deal with a problem by 7:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Okay. 7:30 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
I remember listening to a podcast back when I lived in my condo. I lived in a condo for 15 months when we first moved down to Florida. We, sold everything, just grinded, focused. And I heard this podcast. I still remember where I was standing in my little teeny tiny bathroom in my condo. And the person said, one thing that you can count on is that every single day you're going to encounter problems.
Yeah.
Every single day. You think you can have kids or run a company or have friends or be part of it and not have a problem. So my perspective is every single day by 7:30, usually 6:30, I'm putting out a fire.
Yeah.
And I get to flex my problem solving muscles.
Right.
And I get to feel emotions. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to feel these emotions.
Yep.
Even recently, 2 weeks ago, had to deal with a kind of a big heartbreaking transition on our team even. And I was like, God, thank you so much for my opportunity to do the right thing, to feel emotions, to work through this, to grow through this. And so I think, just as we kind of start off, if we switch our mindset to things are happening to us, from things are happening to us to things are happening for us.
Yes.
Okay. So that we can grow, so that we can inspire others, so that that it's not happening to me, it's happening for me.
Right.
So that I can become a better, stronger person.
Right.
And that little mindset shift has been a game changer for me. And then I'll say one more thing, and then I want to hear from you. Most things in my life, again, lawsuits, people I have to hire, I have to fire them shortly after. I got, all kinds of things happening with the business, big fires, little fires. It's not life or death.
Right.
And I think I said to this gal who texted me, I said, I've learned the art of not taking things too seriously.
Right.
I've learned the art of realizing that if my kids are happy and healthy and my team is happy and healthy, from the standpoint of my friends, that is the most important. When even, recently Ty has this horrific cough. So it's like the stuff at work, it doesn't, it doesn't matter.
Right.
My child is sick.
Right.
That's what matters.
Right.
And so I think part of it is that you just, really put things into perspective. Is it life or death?
Right.
If it's not, why are you sweating?
Right.
Truly.
Right.
So I want to hear from you.
No, all of this is so great, and I think about you and I think about other people like you that I know who hit the ground running. I've driven in the car with you, and you need a blindfold, you need 2 seatbelts, but you drive as fast as you move, and you're such a force that, not that you're going to bulldoze over anything, but for you to say, okay, I'm going to stop and I'm going to feel this for a second, allows you to just like you said, grow that muscle, put in the reps so that you can recover. And that is something too that, for me, when stress happens, I have to think about the stress that I'm creating in my mind. This imaginary stress, this lion that I cannot see, this anxiety of what's ahead. And I think that we have been raised to seek comfort, to seek retirement, to seek the end of the stress,
seek ease,
there is not an easy button. And just like, listen, I got a whole switchboard full of hard buttons and I'm pressing them all the time. And I hate little cliches like embrace the suck or, whatever. Bring it. And the more faith that you have, and I know that God is using me to be able to use me again in the future. So whatever I go through at this time, I better recover from it. And so the faster I recover from a moment of fear or anxiety or true stress, again, did I cause this stress because I procrastinated? Did I cause this stress because I was resentful of another person? So I just stood still. Did I cause this stress on my own? Or is it a real stress. And like you said, that sickness and these life or death things, that's the big lion. But again, you be proactive. You can't wait in the shadow of it. And the more you keep in mind that you have only just started, if you're 89 years old, you still have time. You have no idea how much God is going to use you. And I had a client one time, she was 75, and she, I hope no names. She said, I'm the 1%, I fly to Australia to see my kids. I'm in first class. She had so many things. And she went bankrupt in a year. They repoed her car, repoed her house. Everything that she had. I'm like, you are 75 years old. What are you doing? Wow. She's like, I'm going to start an herb garden, start selling my groceries, like literally. And to watch this woman who had so much material things just go away. And she was like, and guess what? I'm ready for it.
Wow.
That was I like looking at people who manage that well.
That's interesting.
So for somebody who's doing something new for the very first time, of course it's stressful. And for anybody who's messaging you saying, how do I manage this stress? Well, you don't even know the kind of stress that's around the corner. So you might be just creating it. Embrace it. Open your arms wide open and go, come on, bring it. Let me learn.
I think that the key phrase that Dr. Sara Godfried shared on the podcast last week was perceived stress, managing perceived stress. So it's just simply in our mind, and our perception becomes our reality, but can we change the perception?
Right.
Something else that I've heard in the past is particular entrepreneurs, famous entrepreneurs will say, like, I have lived off of $1 a day in New York City and still made it. And so I know that even if all my money is gone, I'm still in a good spot. And that's very powerful.
Yes.
I've lived in a small condo with my kids for 15 months and we were happy and we were healthy and things were going right. And we lived off of $4,000 a month.
And you're not forgetting that.
Right. I am in a very powerful position because everything I do is out of choice. Highest and best good for passed away, highest and best good for the trust family. I have a different level of monetary success now versus when I lived in the condo, 7-8 years ago. But I could easily go back to that and still be happy.
Right.
And so I think it gives me a different decision-making matrix by which I decide if something is a stressor.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, that's not a stressor.
Well, no, that's
I just
true.
lost $100,000. I just lost $250,000. It's no big deal.
If I lost $100,000, it'd be a big deal.
Well, because
actually, it's not, because I've been planning for it. Like these are the things that I learned in the past 2 years. I didn't think I was going to be on my own. I don't have a shared income with a husband. I have a daughter who's going to live with me for a while. And a son in college. Like these are things that, thank goodness, I started kind of preparing for, so that it's not as disruptive as it should be. But I didn't know that, right? So if you just kind of prepare, and it's a practice, but it's a practice, and hanging around with people who have wisdom too, listening to these people, you surround yourself with a lot of wisdom, and going to therapy. I love therapy, really makes a difference too, so that you can watch the mistakes that people have made.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about surrounding yourself with people. So, first it's the mindset component.
Correct.
So we've discussed the mindset component of just understanding you're going to face problems, you're going to face challenges every single day.
This is logic. Yes.
Some are, bigger, you perceive them bigger than others. But for me, the other thing is surrounding myself with people who do have experience and wisdom. And last month, I went to my YPO forum, Young Presidents Organization forum, and it was one of my lowest days of the past year. And I was like, guys, I need some wisdom here. And what I really heard from them in kind of our little 45-minute forum session was, we've been there. We've done that. We experienced it. We understand. We hear you. That was more what I heard than here's exactly your next step. It was, we can relate.
Right.
And so for me, it was, I'm not the only one. And hearing the shared experience with people who I can trust 100%. We have a confidentiality clause within Young Presidents Organization. And also we have a no judgment rule. Like it's just no judgment.
Yeah.
And so that for me was really key. And I think you could probably attest to this even over the last year as you've managed some additional stress in your life, having the support of people at Faster Way, having the support of friends.
Yeah. And you said it, you're surrounding yourself with people in this organization that honor confidentiality and that don't judge you. Sounds like a friend to me, right? So what are the kind of friends that you're around? I don't like to talk about my problems. And not once have you ever tried to help me. You're like, yeah, that sucks.
Yeah,
that's bad. You just want someone just to hear you sometimes and not to judge you. And that is how we can also be to other people. And I think that when we practice that with other people, practice being confidential, practice not judging them, then you can receive that a little bit better too. I think a lot of people are trying to help other people so much to try to hide their own issues, receive it at the same time. But my Faster Way family, I just changed my screensaver. It's called the wallpaper.
Yeah.
To a picture of me, Haven, and Kelly
So
from
cute.
4 years ago.
It's so cute.
Mike goes, oh, it looks like Kelly is right about to get her driver's license. But that reminds me of the group that I'm supposed to be around and going to stay with you in Costa Rica was so scary. This was like true stress, not because I was with Amanda, because she's I felt like I went home to Thanksgiving camp is what I called it. But the ropes course that you suggested strongly that we do.
That was stress.
Because I have these nightmares of roller coasters that I'm going to fall down. I was harnessed, but I have never felt so much fear and anxiety than I ever had on that day. And again, what did I learn from it? I learned to take care of some business. I learned to get over it. That was just perceived stress. So hanging around people is critical to helping.
And I think that for me, when I am going through a stressful situation and I have additional perceived stress in my life, texting my friends and seeing how I can help them immediately changes my perspective, because I realize that there's other people too who have big problems that I can help solve. So even last week I was texting with one of my colleagues and I'm texting him kind of one of my pain points. And then he's texting back, it's been a really rough week for me. And I go into problem solving mode for him.
What can we do? Yeah.
Which helped me kind of get out of my funk a little bit.
Yeah.
So sometimes when we're so focused internally
of poor me,
it's like the more we focus externally, just in life and to help other people. And I also, sometimes on workouts in the past have said, like, focus on the bigger problems, like focus on the real problems. So many times we get fixated on like, how much money am I making? And like little things where we need to focus on the big problems. Can we solve world hunger?
Right.
Like, when I get into these little or, people around me kind of get into focusing on the little things and stressed out about and then I'm last week, with some work stress, I'm like, I am trying to solve obesity and you guys are worrying about this thing. I'm like, I don't have time to worry about that. I'm trying to prevent cancer. I'm trying to be the next Weight Watchers. I'm trying to build this thing to $1 billion brand. Like, do you think I can worry about this little thing that happened at 7:30 in the morning? Like, it's gone.
It's gone.
It's past.
There's no more room for it.
Yeah. So I think
love
that too, of like focusing on the bigger problems, and all of this so far is mindset. But let's transition a little bit into the meditation side, the breath work side, just calming your mind. We've spoken about it on the podcast a little bit, but for me, I think that is a big important component when I take the time in the morning to do the breath work, to do the prayer, the meditation, and just really get my mindset right. Grateful, thank you, God, that I have the opportunity to feel these things and go through challenges and get stronger. And, thank you for the strength that you give me. Like, when I do that in the morning, I sleep better at night.
Fully. And, recently too, because again, we did talk about the breath work and the grounding. That's been a great practice, but that is after I've already been awake for like 2 hours, because I have to wake up now and I literally go straight to God with gratitude, but then I'm looking for His advice. I'm like, show me what I need to do today. I'm going to have the same thing. I'm like, there's going to be a problem by the time the sun comes up. Like, what am I carrying from yesterday? Show me the discernment that I need to let go of whatever yesterday had. Give me the focus on what I need to do today. And I just ask Him to be the driver, because all of the success or anything that's great does come from His belief in us.
Yeah.
So when I really put that first recently, it's helped me get on his path and off of my own.
Yeah.
It's a big help.
Yeah. So the breath work, the prayer, the meditation.
So I take that to the ground and then I pray, then I breathe through it and like repeat it over and over and over again. And just like you said, then I sleep better at night. You know, I'm like, okay, I'm here for the day.
And the other thing I think, you know, so many of us just don't even focus on, it's just so underrated, I suppose, is the movement.
Yes.
So it's not just simply the 30-minute workout with us, the HIIT and the strength training. It's also walking. It's going outside and moving, because otherwise, if we are stressed, we have this pent up energy. We're in fight or flight, but there's no flight. You know, we need to get into movement, which is going to help clear the mind, even spinning. So when I have had periods of more exceptional perceived stress, I've taken to the bike. I've gone outside and run, and I'm not a runner, but I remember certain seasons where an entire month could go by where the primary workout I did was running, just simply to clear my mind. Even if it was 20 minutes, 25 minutes, you know, that has been interesting in different seasons, just to get out there and to move. Right. So it's the mindset. We've talked about that. It's the meditation. It's the movement.
It's the movement.
And it's the nutrition.
It is. I mean, you know, and it all goes together too. That movement, the weight lifting, picking up something heavy and focusing on the progression of that weight has been another game changer, because I wasn't focusing on myself. I just kept getting stronger and stronger. And when I do that and boxing, I mean, Taibo, hip boxing, all that just, and it doesn't take long, but those are the ones that I did because I used to. And I was talking to someone the other day, she said, why did you run 10 miles every day with your kids in the jogger? And I was like, because I was unhappy. That's how I dealt with stress when they were little.
Yeah.
But then when I got older, it changed. But that movement is so important. And a lot of times people just want to crawl into bed and pull the covers over their head. I started walking my dog. He started to walk like on the leash a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
I got shin splints because it was so long since I'd walked my dog.
Gosh,
I'm like,
funny.
literally, I'm walking a milk jug around the neighborhood. And I got shin splints. I went like a mile. I was like, this is a problem. But I was hungrier. I was like, what happened? I got my step count back. And I'm not listening to anything. I'm listening to the birds. I'm listening to him. I'm talking to him. It's a full focus on just this puppy for 20 minutes.
Love it.
That's been huge too.
A 20-minute walk every single day, no matter what. Huge.
It is so big. But again, I said I was hungry. So now that I got those steps in, now that I'm getting my appetite back, if I'm not consuming the right food, then it's going to be counterproductive. So nutrition does matter.
Oh, yes. If we're eating processed foods, you know, junk foods, then it's only going to create more inflammation and you know, the stress response is, you know, not going to be moderated as effectively. But yeah, I think walking is key. Yesterday, you know, stressful day at work, super productive, but stressful. Yeah. Turned the phone off, literally lost it. I couldn't even find it. Went out, you know, with the kids, 25, 30 minutes. We went and we looked at the turtles. We went and we looked at, and then I get back, we're playing Scrabble. I'm like, oh shoot, I got to look at my phone. I had 75 text messages, you know, by the time I looked at it again. But I think that is key. And I want everyone listening to remember, you know, again, Dr. Sara Godfried and I, we spoke about managing perceived stress. But the reason we were speaking about that is because we want to empower women, especially women and men, to have balanced hormones. And we were zeroing in on cortisol. And the thing is, there's so much nuance around cortisol. If we have chronically elevated levels of cortisol for too long, we can get in a situation where then our cortisol just tanks and we don't have the morning cortisol. Period. It's like really hard to get up and out of bed. So you have to go on a long journey then of managing perceived stress, being sure that you're not allowing a lot of other external factors to stress out your body. And listen, intermittent fasting is a stressor. Okay. It can be a very good stressor, but too much of a good thing is a bad thing. Okay. Intermittent fasting is a stressor. Exercise is a stressor. We talk about this all the time. If you're going to a HIIT class 7 days a week, that's too much stress on your body, guys. Okay, there's a lot that we can do to prevent that level of stress on our body. limiting your calories
Yeah.
is a stressor. So that's why we focus on consuming enough of the right macronutrients. So let's manage the external stressors while we also maintain the proper mindset and work to manage the perceived stressors. And again, things happen for you, not to you. They happen for you so that you can grow. But what you said in the beginning, and I think we can wrap up here, like so many of us think that we should have an easy life. Like that's what we're chasing. And I say sometimes in workouts, like your biggest problem is that you think you shouldn't have problems.
Correct.
Where in fact, you said it, bring it on. Bring it on. When we are willing to face the challenges head on, we are then in a mindset where we can problem solve, tackle it, move on. I shared on a workout recently, planes go into the wind. They go into the wind. They have a headwind because that helps them elevate faster. It's the same thing. So much of this is between our ears. It's in our brain. It's the perception. It's the psychology. Yes, you can go to a therapist. You know, I'm a huge into counselors. There's a lot of bad therapists and counselors though, who are just going to create a scenario where you are in a victim mentality. Get out of that victim mentality. Get out of it.
Right.
If you're a victim, then you aren't going to be able to grow.
Be the hero. Don't be the victim. Be the hero. Be the one that, you know, again, the greatest counselor, in my opinion, has just that one book. But recognizing that and recognizing that you can be the hero and you don't have to live in that space in which you are always put down. How are you going to tell other people to get out of that? Again, be the example too. And it's not easy. But when you start in the morning and you practice every single day and you surround yourself with people that you love and that you trust and you recognize that, okay, you're here for fat loss first, that's not your fifth year why. You know what I mean? It is just finding your why every chance you get.
Yeah. That's the podcast. We want what's best for you guys. We are cheering you on. We are here for you. And we hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.